We are live.
Good evening.
Kiran ma'am, we are live.
Okay. Well, it's fine. Good evening. Welcome everyone in this live discussion series. Today I'm going to introduce Professor Narendra Bhandari ji. Professor Narendra Bhandari is a space scientist. He carried out research work at Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai University of California, San Jose, USA, and Physical Research Laboratory of ISRO at Ahmedabad. He studied Apollo and Soviet moon samples and chaired ISRO's planetary science and exploration program. He made pioneering contributions to India's first missions to Moon Chandrayaan-1 and Mars orbiter mission to Mars. He was member of the Moon Mission Task Force, Chandrayaan-1, Science Advisory Board, and Instruments Selection Committee for Mars Orbiter Mission of Indian Space Research Organization. He served as president of the International Lunar Exploration Working Group. For his contributions to planetary and space sciences, Professor Bhandari has been honored with several national and international awards, notably Outstanding Achievements Award of ISRO for his contributions to Indian Space Program, Vikram Sarabhai Award in Planetary and Space Sciences, National Mineral Award of Government of India, and Special Certificate of Recognition by NASA. He has also been decorated with Marva Ratna Award. Professor Bhandari received the Lifetime Achievement Award from Institute of Genealogy in 2020. Presently, he holds the chair at Science and Spirituality Research Institute, Ahmedabad, and was also associated with Bhagwan Mahavir International Research Center of Jain Vishwa Bharati Institute, Ladnan, Rajasthan. He has published and edited several books on Jain philosophy, namely Jainism, a universal and eternal path to enlightenment, scientific perspectives of Jainism, and Jain philosophy of scientific approach to reality. So welcome, Siddha Bhandari ji.
Thank you very much. I'm going to talk about the correct worldview. We all have a worldview, but that is based on our faith. My psychologist friends say that we can't live even for a minute if we don't have faith. Faith and belief are essential. So the worldview is based on faith, but is it the correct worldview? Because it is different for different people. I have a different worldview compared to everybody else, compared to other animals or birds. They all have their own view of the world. So today I am going to share my thoughts about what is the correct worldview. The correct worldview, or we can call it the Buddha worldview or enlightened worldview. In science, we call it the view of the universal observer because it is independent of the observer. It is absolute. So how do we uh, correct our worldview, or how do we acquire a correct worldview? That is the topic of discussion. Uh, Slide show, okay. So the point I want to make is that we are human beings, we have brain and consciousness. So it is our duty unto ourselves to have the correct worldview. Otherwise, we'll be working with a false notion, with the wrong view, and our life may just go waste. So 10 things I have listed here, which every human should know. That is because we are the only people who have been given a brain and a consciousness of a developed state. What are these questions? That is our existence and origin. Why do we exist? Why? What for we are born? How and when this universe came into existence? And then I think there are important question of how and why we die, what happens after death, our future and end of the universe. Is there a purpose in life? If yes, what it is? If not, what a waste of life it is. At the same time, I guess we ought to know what are the laws that govern the universe, how nature works, and what are our potentials. I think this is the most important, our physical, mental powers, spiritual uh, powers, which we call labdhis, and how to attain them. If we know these 10 points, then I guess we can form a correct worldview. But we hardly spend any time on these questions. We go day by day doing our routine work and so on. So I think I'll begin by telling that we should remove our these colored glasses of faith or belief, and we should look at the world with the purity of mind, without any goggles. So first thing comes to us is to look at the history of life on earth, because that teaches us lots of lessons related to those 10 questions. We know from our scientific studies that universe was formed 15 billion years ago. Earth was formed 4.5 billion years ago. Life appeared on earth 3.5 billion years ago. And so these are our chronological benchmarks. And then by looking at the fossil record on the earth, we come to the understanding that life evolves in jumps. There have been 4 revolutions that have already taken place. The first revolution was origin of life. That is, it started as algae. The second was that single cell algae developed multicellular structure. The third revolution was that the walking creatures, the living species before this were all stable. They were not able to move. But about 550 million years ago, we have on earth creatures which started moving. And the fourth and the biggest revolution came with man evolved with mind. So we have learned that the life evolves in jumps. And also we learned that life evolves in, life ends also in sudden jumps. And there is evidence that the first catastrophic event happened 444 million years ago. The second one, 366. The third one, which was the biggest of all, 252 million years ago. Then another one at 201 million years. And the last one, you know, we are all familiar with that, when dinosaurs and many species die. When they died, it was 65 million ago. from now. So in these jumps, the man evolves and the man, the life evolves and the life also ends. So this is the diagram I have given here: single cell, multicellular one, then the moving creatures, then mammals and birds and flowers, and then human. So we are sure about one thing, that human species are going to die one day. This species will not exist anymore and new species will be born. Now, this is the law of nature. So there's nothing we can do about it. But we learn lots of other things. We learn that nature, what nature is doing is moving towards an objective. It is not a random path. This path which I am showing here, from single cell amoeba or algae to a human, has been a long journey, 3.5 billion years long, but it is with a purpose and it is moving with an objective. Everything is evolving towards higher consciousness level. So the way, everybody has different concept of what is dharma and what is adharma, but I define it as supporting nature in its objective is real dharma, and if you oppose the nature in its path, that is anti-dharma or adharma. So this is a very clear understanding we get by studying these various fossils of animals on the earth. So our problem is not only that we don't think about these things in our normal life, but we don't know how to see. We normally stop at the outer frame of an object which we want to see. We don't see the underlying processes. Whatever is visible is only an outward exposition and not the real motive force. So we should try to see the underlying processes, and we should see everything. We have got 5 senses, and we should see with all the senses, all the 5 senses at once. I call it seeing. Normally we see with eyes, or we hear something, or we taste something, or we smell something, but or we touch something, but we don't use all these faculties together. That is very important to give us a view of totality. So we should see with all the 5 senses at once. Like, for example, I just give an example. If we eat, we should first see the food, we should touch it, we should smell it, we should taste it, and when we chew it, we should also hear the sound. So all the 5 sense organs should work together in harmony. So if we look at the anything in the universe, let us say we look at this cell. I have a cell here. We only say, you ask anybody, he will say it is a cell. But that is not the main thing. Yes, of course it is a cell, but it signifies harmony, synergy, and cooperation. So let me tell that you may be knowing all this, but there are about 1,000 trillion cells in a human body of about 320 different types. Each gene contains 6 million orders in it. Each DNA of a chromosome contains billions of genetic codes. These cells are composed of 10 to the power 27. That's a huge number, 10 to the power 27, 27 zeros after 10 atoms working in a symbiotic fashion. There are more than 200 trillion molecules in a single cell, all executing thousands of coordinated reactions with precise timing and function. For example, each cell makes 2,000 proteins every second. So it is actually a workshop. The biggest workshop in the universe is a human cell. 2,000 proteins made every second. But we don't look at it. We just look at it as a object, and we don't realize the inner processes. So I have here three pictures. One is of a cell, which I showed you. The other is a solar system. That is our Earth and all the other planets, 7 planets and sun and all that. And a galaxy which is even larger. It is 100,000 light years in size. That's a huge thing. So look at a smallest entity like a cell or a big entity like a galaxy or our Milky Way, microns to lakhs of light years, we find the same phenomena are followed by nature in all that. What are these phenomena? I think that is what we should realize to get a correct worldview. The phenomena are coherence. Coherence means walking in step. That is how we define coherence. If two things work in a step. But this is not only coherence, this is deep coherence in all these objects. What I mean is by deep coherence is that they work as if they know what they have to do. What happens to one happens to all of them. They have an order, they have coordination, they have time synchronity. That means they work not only in physical steps, but also in time steps at the right time. They work in harmony. They don't interfere with each other. They are entangled. And entangled means as if they have instant connectivity. One depends on the other. They are not independent. There are 10 to the power 27 atoms in one cell, but they have an instant connectivity. They are in dynamic equilibrium. They are spontaneous. They don't need external orders to follow to do their job. And most important of all, they have a self-corrective faculty. If anything goes wrong, they correct it. So at that level, at atomic level, at molecular level, all these things are happening. If you look at this, any object in the universe, you will see that all these processes are acting at the same time. So this leads to the concept of oneness of everything. That means everything acts as if it is one. There is a free will and there is a goal. From this dictum emanates the principle of non-violence, compassion, and aparigraha. All these come out of this phenomena that everything is one. We are not separate parts. Our Earth is not separate from Venus or Mars or Sun. They are all mutually dependent. So we can take the Earth as one animal, one big animal, just like our bodies, they are made up of two components. One are living and one are chemical elements. So is the Earth. The biosphere is the living component and the geosphere is the non-living component. So this was proposed by a British scientist, but this is very much embedded in Indian philosophy. Take whatever philosophy, that just like an animal has a chemical, air, water, etc., and biological, that is our living component, the Earth also has atmosphere, hydrosphere, geosphere, and biosphere, and plants and animals have living. So the Earth is a macroorganism, a big organism. If you spoil a part of it, just like you break your finger, then other parts will be affected. Same thing happens to the Earth. It regulates itself. It is in balance. The water cycle is there to tell that nothing is lost. Everything is in balance. We get rains, we have ocean, we have lakes, we have rivers, but they are all talking to each other. They are in harmony and it supports all life. And most importantly, it changes as it is required. So the same is true for, we can say, the whole universe. The whole universe is like one animal, and that is how we should treat it. So from this comes, if you study it, several laws come. The law of coexistence, that everything exists together. Law of causality, if you do something, there will be an effect of it. There is no effect which has no cause. deterministic world. The world has a goal, so it moves towards that. The law of conservation, that nothing is lost. The law of complementarity, that everything complements everything else. There's nothing which is independent, and the totality make it one. And then there are some quantum mechanical phenomena like probability, choice, free will. And there are some things we can't even describe. There are things we can't even write down. The thing we can only feel, we can only experience. So the observer and observed, they both exist together. Now, for example, I take this little rose flower. This is white roses in my garden. We think this is fantastic, but this is not. Because if you don't water it for a week, it will be gone. It does not have its own existence. It exists on others. Whereas if you go to a forest, go after 10,000 years, it will be the same. So they support each other. They live because of others. They are not independent. And that is a big lesson. And this is the fundamental law of nature, that everything lives by coexistence and integrative or togetherness. Then we have this law of karma, which is causality. And one who believes in karma theory can do no wrong. And I've already discussed this one. So I think most important purpose in our life is to know the earth. And Dr. Anand asked me to talk a little about Chandrayaan. So I'll come to this thing, that we want to look at the earth. We want to have a correct worldview of the earth. We can't have it from inside. For a living being, you can have a view from inside, but for a non-living thing, you have to look at from outside. So we had a mission to moon, this Chandrayaan, and our first problem was how to do something new. So we sent this yellow line is the orbit around the poles. We sent a polar orbiter which looked at poles, because poles of the moon were not observed before. And you will be surprised that moon and earth are not separate. They are 400,000 kilometers away from each other, but they are like one system. They are like two arms of the same body. Our biorhythm on earth is 20-day period, which is same as the cycle of the moon. There are psychological effects, there are physical rhythms, there are sedimentation. But you know, most important is that the moon going around the earth has stabilized the orbit of the earth. Long time ago, when earth was formed, it was moving with 5-hour period. That means 2.5 hour day and 2.5 hour night. Now it has become 24-hour period because of moon. We have 12 hours day and 12-hour night. So that is because of gravitation of the moon. So it reduced the speed of earth. And even more important is that life on earth began from the ocean. If moon was not there and it had no tides to bring the water on land and go back, and when water went back, it left the animals back on earth, and that turned into living animals. So we owe our existence. We would have been fishes if moon was not there. We are humans because moon brought us on the land. So these are the Chandrayaan-1 milestones. In 1995, we started and we finished it in 2008. And it was launched there with a big history. And what we learned from Chandrayaan is that before that, they thought moon is originated as hot. It is dead, means there is no volcanic activity on the moon. And it is dry, that means there is no water or no atmosphere. From Chandrayaan-1, we had 11 experiments, and we proved that moon has an active atmosphere and it has a hydrosphere also. It has water. Moon has young volcanism, so it is not dead, but it is living. Moon has tectonic activity, that means moon is active, and moon has an active interior. So all these things we learned from our mission, and now I'll conclude that knowing the laws of nature gives us knowledge. Knowledge gives us the correct worldview. Correct worldview removes fear. Freedom from fear leads to happiness and worry-free life. Supporting nature in its objective is real dharma. Opposing nature is uh, adharma, and living by laws of nature is the correct way of living. So these are the laws of coexistence, law of causality, law of complementarity, and we should live by these laws. So this is how we should look at all the objects of the earth, and this is how we should form our correct worldview, or the Buddha enlightened worldview. Thank you very much. I'll end by showing that moon has many colors. The super moon, you know, when it is closest, it looks big. The red moon, you know, blood moon, when it is in penumbra and only red light falls on the moon. Then we have the honeymoon, which looks honey colored in the month of May or June. And then we have hunter's moon. It is seen in Antarctica when moon and its image both are seen together. Two moons are seen at once. One is, of course, an image, and other is the real moon. And we have blue moon, that means once in a long time. So there are many moons, and I end up my talk here. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Professor Narendra Bhandari ji, for lighting us regarding life, progresses, and ends in sudden jumps, etc. And what is nature doing with all five senses, cells in human body, fundamentals, phenomena, governing universe. Any question may be asked? Thank you very much, Bhandari ji.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
nice. Thank you. Bye.
Good. Once again, thank you.
Namaste.